person with this house. And I wanted that bathroom in such a way that you can sit on the stool and appreciate water or waterfalls. So, I don't know. I've been out of commission for 43 years, man, so I'm out of know. I can only dream. When I was a young man, I had no idea that I would be thinking and creating things that I do today. In 1972, I was in a dormitory. These people scooped me up and they took me out of the dormitory and they put me in the cell. They put us here and held us here for what they call investigation into the Miller murder. Albert and I are innocent now. And these people put us through so far.
You have 10 minutes left on this call.
Much of, intentionally and knowing what they were doing. They knew that we didn't commit this damn crime. And yet, because of our philosophy, because of the things that we were advocating, because of the things that we were doing and making those type of changes in this penitentiary at a time when changes were sweeping the country, I mean, you had your Atticus, you had your San Quentin, you had shit flying up all over the damn country. And Angola was no exception.
Our research shows nobody in the country has been in solitary confinement longer than Herman and Albert. What's really telling is when we deposed the warden in this case and said, for the minute, just assume that they're innocent. And the warden said, I would still keep them locked up in a cell in solitary confinement because they're Black Panthers. That's what the warden said. So if that's his view, I gotta think it's the prevailing view of the entire department. It doesn't matter that they're innocent. There's a review board, quote unquote, that every 90 days sits down and decides whether they should be released from solitary confinement. And each time, every 90 days for 38 years, they've said no. And each time on the slip where they deny, they say, for reasons of initial confinement. Basically saying, because you killed a guard, because you're convicted of killing a guard, you cannot be released. When you keep a man locked up because of the crime they committed, well, then that's no review.
Before I went to the 10th grade, I got busted for armed robbery. I was a rugged kind of guy at that time. And it wasn't until I got involved with Panther philosophy, that I got my whole mind turned around. I got locked up in 10 year to 15, 1967. So, things done changed a great deal. Prior to 1972, there's different types of rape. You had many types of killing that was going on frequently, and it was the way that the so-called security was actually running the prison. When the Panthers came on the scene, that made a big difference. We decided to take and step up and put ourselves in front of the gun and begin to protect some of these guys. The best way to do that was to go to some of those who was already had been abused and made slaves. The idea was to challenge the administration because what they were doing you know, it was gangster. And the prisoners didn't realize that until later on they began to see it. You know, they began to see some of the things that they were rejecting. It was beginning to make positive change. You cannot be a man unless you stand up and fight for the things that you actually believe that you are entitled to. You have to keep keeping understanding that the whole state itself was adhering to racism because, you know, even though the federal government had put a stop to segregation back in 1955, the state in Louisiana was still practicing. We had, you know, separate dormitories, separate cells. You know, everything was separate from white prisoners and black prisoners. I was standing in line, you know, waiting for breakfast. When one thing that went by the name of Catfish, using his brute strength in the attempt to rape another smaller man. But in his attempt, the smaller man was already armed with a smaller knife. And he hit Catfish in the neck, cutting his several things.
You have 5 minutes left on this call.
Catfish fled to death right there in front of me. The strangest thing occurred to me was that the death penalty was in the state. But no black man who killed another black man. The state was actually encouraging us to kill each other, man. My parents didn't own a house. My mom was great. I was in love with my mom when I was a kid. Where life was so simple and so innocent in comparison with the new age as we live in today. You know, I was thinking about all of those types of things that this house had brought back to me. I thought that neighborhood was the only place in the world. I didn't venture outside of that community because mostly the surrounding areas was white-oriented. And you didn't step inside these other communities without, you know, the fear of being arrested or being beat up. So we were trapped in that community. Did you know that when I came to prison, there was segregation still going on? I don't know nothing about integration. I never lived under integration. I don't know what that is. But you know, come on, man. It happened after 35 years, 11 months, and 7 days in a cell that we were taken from the cell and placed on a bus. And then they removed all the restraints off the bus, you know, and we walked into the dormitory, and I tell you, it was spectacular. It's a big deal for a lot of these guys because they never dreamed that they would ever get out of these cells.